Welcome to the Missionary Mobilization Podcast, a resource for Christian leaders who want to increase the number of missionaries around the world. This podcast is a ministry of the Center for Missionary Mobilization and Retention at Trinity Bible College and Graduate School. Visit us online at missionarymobilization.org. Now, here's your host, the founder and director of the Center for Missionary Mobilization and Retention, David Jacob.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Missionary Mobilization Podcast. Our goal is to equip and encourage mobilizers and missions pastors from around the world. We'd love to hear how you like the podcast, or if you have any suggestions for show topics. You can email us at hello@missionarymobilization.org. And please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, or Spotify. You know, in an upcoming episode of our podcast, we're going to be taking listener questions and comments. So please send us an email. We want to hear your story. We want to know what you think about the show. Suggest a show topic for us or someone that you think would be good for us to interview. How we might make this podcast better. Tell us how you're involved in missions mobilization, and we might even give you a shout out. Just write to us at hello@missionarymobilization.org. Well, today is a special episode of our podcast. We're going to be giving you a behind-the-mic version here of the Missionary Mobilization Podcast, sharing with you about how this mobilization ministry began. And this isn't for us to toot our own horn or anything, but to hopefully share what God has done and to inspire you to take the next step towards perhaps a new initiative that God might be speaking to you about. And I'm joined today by Tim Jacobson. Tim is our project manager and marketing coordinator here at the Center for Missionary Mobilization and Retention. Plus, you'll recognize him as the voice of our intro and outro for this podcast. Tim, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dave. It's great to be here today. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, man. It's great. This is fun. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm a recent graduate of Trinity Bible College and Graduate School, and I am now working at the college full-time, really, and I'm doing multiple roles. I'm working in the student life department, audiovisual department, as well as working for the Center for Missionary Mobilization and Retention, and I absolutely love it. I am passionate about missions. My degree is intercultural studies and a music minor. So I love music and I love technology and using those to spread the gospel. I'm also married to my wife, Bobby, and we're just going to be married about 2 years. So I'm excited about that. That's just coming in about a week from when we're recording this. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great, man. Well, I know I appreciate having you here on staff with us, helping to set up our podcasts and all the videos that we do. Things for social media and helping with our YouTube channel and all that good stuff. So it's great having you on board.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Now, Dave, I get to interview you this time, so it's going to be a little different for you probably. And this is a little newer for me too, because usually I'm on the other end editing these and everything like that. So,
right. And I'm a little nervous, to be honest with you.
Are you?
I don't know what you've got up your sleeves.
You don't know what I've got up my sleeves today? Oh, that's funny. I'm just kidding. Well, hey, Dave, would you tell us a little bit about your background in missions?
Yeah, so I used to work for Samaritan's Purse and Operation Christmas Child, actually. I was the director for the Upper Midwest for that project, if you're familiar with Franklin Graham and that great ministry. And so that's kind of where my passion and heart for missions really started and grew a lot, I guess. I'd always loved missions, but it was really when I worked for that project that it I guess blossomed in a sense. That's where you take a shoebox and you fill it full of candy and personal hygiene items, school supplies, things like that. And what we would do is we would take those gifts and send them to needy children all over the world. And so from there, God actually called us to, which, by the way, Love Samaritan's Purse and Operation Christmas Child. We'll put a link in the show notes. It's a great missions project that you can do with your family or with your youth group. So it's a really cool way for you to be involved in missions without necessarily, going anywhere.
That's
which,
awesome.
During this time of the recording here, still dealing with COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
And so it might be a good project for you, your family, your church, your youth group to be a part of. But basically, God was just burdening our heart for the needy of the world. And he through a variety of ways, called us to go to the mission field. And we served in a sensitive country in northern Asia for several years, working with orphans and learning the local language. And it was near our time when we needed to come home. We needed to come back and do some fundraising, and that's really when God started speaking to me about higher education and about teaching. And it was this crazy idea for me to be a missionary in residence. I just had this passion in my heart to do this, and I didn't have a master's degree at the time, so I just kind of put it on the back burner. I don't know if you get ideas like that. And
oh yeah, definitely sometimes.
You just think that's crazy. Forget about that. And so, but this would pop back into my head.
Oh wow,
all the time, and I could not shake it. I'd find myself in this sensitive country before we came back to the States here. I remember washing eggs one day because, you don't get eggs that like you do at Walmart. They come au natural, right?
Yep.
So here I am washing eggs at the sink, and I'm dreaming about teaching Intro to Missions. And I find myself on the computer Googling Intro to Missions syllabi. I mean, what?
Who does that, Dave?
What a nerd.
Who
right?
does that?
I know. And so...
So correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry to interrupt, but had you taught before this?
No.
Wow.
Not at all. I mean, I taught a Bible study on missions at my local church, and that was about it, right?
Yeah.
I had no academic real experience in teaching at the collegiate level.
Wow.
And so I'm trying to shake this idea, and God keeps bringing it back to the surface. And so finally, after several months of this, I had to talk to my leadership, and I said, I know this sounds crazy, I know I'm not qualified to do this thing, but it seems to be something that perhaps God is speaking to me about. And anyway, so long story short, I made application to become a missionary in residence here at Trinity Bible College and Graduate School, where I earned my Master of Arts in Missional Leadership right here. And so that's a little bit about our background in missions.
That's incredible. That's amazing. And I know that Trinity Bible College and Graduate School is truly blessed by having you here and leading the intercultural studies department so well. And I mean, you have many hats. Like, you're wearing a lot of hats, running the Center for Missionary Mobilization and Retention, and as well being a professor. That's a lot on your plate, I bet, and doing all that.
It is a lot, but you know what? I'm having a blast.
That's awesome.
I absolutely love it. I love reading missions books. I love research. I love teaching. I love my students. And so it's just, I'm like a kid in a candy store.
There you go. Now, talking about books, actually, you also wrote an ebook explaining how God called you to be a missionary. I know you went into your calling just a little bit, but can you kind of talk about that ebook?
Yeah, it was really written. It's really short. It's only like a chapter long. So it'd take you, you read it in like a half hour.
I read it in about a half hour.
Yeah, so it's not very long. The purpose of it was written for those younger generations that perhaps don't like reading, or they never really pick up a book. And so it's an ebook with William Carey Publishers. We can put a link to this. It's only $1.99.
Oh wow, good price.
It's because it's short. And nobody really is making money. It's a ministry, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the title of it is "It's Your Call to a Missionary or Missional Life." And what the point that I wanted to get across is that everybody has a role in missions, and whether you're the one who goes, you're the one who sends, or encourages, or prays, or welcomes. There's so many ways for you to be involved in missions. You're either the missionary or you are missional.
Oh, that's good.
In some other function. And so I do dig a little bit deeper into my own call story of how God called me to my family to the field. And so this is available in ebook format for those who might be interested. It's geared for the younger generation. So if you're a youth pastor, And maybe you know someone just kind of wrestling with the missionary call. I'm kind of feeling a tug, but I'm not really sure. This is a book that may help them kind of navigate that.
That's incredible. I love one thing that you said in here, and I'm not gonna give everything away in the book, but I want people to read it, But you said, I'll tell you what, why don't we just switch seats? I'll do the driving, and let's just spend some time getting to know each other better. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the book you were talking about how God was speaking to you, and that just hit me so powerful. And it's worded better in the book and stuff. And
yeah, I was at a point in my life where I was seeking God's will more than I was seeking God. And perhaps all believers are there at some point. When you're young, maybe you're really concerned about what God's will is for your life. And so that's when I just had this picture in my mind of me driving a car and wanting to do anything Jesus told me to do.
Oh, wow.
But he wasn't talking to me. And that's when he said that. I felt that impressed in my heart, that he said, let's just switch seats. Let me do the driving. And Jesus talking here. Let Jesus do the driving, and Dave will sit in the passenger seat and just get to know Jesus a little bit better.
Wow, that's incredible. That's an amazing story. Now, if this were to turn into a movie, because I think it could.
It's not going to turn into a movie.
You don't know that. Who would play you if a movie was made about your book?
Oh, Tim. I have no idea. Probably some weird-looking guy with a chin beard and a receding hairline, starting to go bald, But yeah, no movies.
Okay.
That's okay. Let's stick to books and podcasts. Okay. Let's stick to podcasts. Tim, have a face for podcasts. You've heard of those who have a face for radio, right? I have a face for podcasting.
Gotcha. Okay. I have another question here for you. So it's more about the center now. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, if that's all right, because that's what we're about here. So how did the Center for Missionary Mobilization and Retention come about?
It's such an interesting story, and why I believe in higher education so much is because I was in a grad class called Generational Succession.
Oh, wow.
Which is a fancy name for who's going to take your place in ministry, right?
Okay.
And so most of my classmates in this class most of them were pastors. And so, in fact, that's mostly how the class was taught in ministry as a pastor, who's going to take your place. And so I, being a missionary at the time, began thinking about, well, who's going to take my place as a missionary? And so we started digging into some of the research as far as the number of missionaries that are sent from North America. And I realized that they were declining.
Oh, wow.
And so that, of course, caused me for concern. And I ended up actually writing a paper on that class about missionary succession, who's going to replace, us as missionaries, and how should this work. And then at the end of my whole degree, I ended up writing my thesis on a case study of what the Assemblies of God does to mobilize millennials to the field, and all the various things that they do with conferences and mentorship and missionaries in residence programs and all these things. And so I wrote about 90 pages of a thesis on that particular topic. So this whole time, of course, I'm studying missionary call, and I'm studying missions mobilization and recruitment and sending and short-term trips and mentorship, and how church affects someone growing up in a church that focuses on missions as opposed to those that don't. And I just couldn't shake this idea of we've got to do more. I've got to do more. Now that I was done with my master's degree, and I thought that there needs to be something else. And I kept reading, and I kept hearing from leaders in missions mobilization that there are few resources for mobilizers. And that stayed in my head and went round and round, few resources for mobilizers. And so I thought, well, maybe here at Trinity we should start a center that would resource mobilizers.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, I thought, that's a dumb idea. I don't even know what a center is, or I'm new to academia, right? I don't even know what a center is, what a center does. In fact, I had to Google it. What is a center at an institute of higher education? And how's that different from, say, an institute at a university? And so didn't have a clue, but started digging into this a little bit. And again, God would not let this go. And so I approached our leadership and I said, what if we started a center for missionary mobilization and we add retention on there? Because in my opinion, if we're going to focus on missions mobilization, we need to address retention and to stop that revolving door of missionaries who go to the field and they're there for a couple years and then they're back home again. Yeah. So I approached our leadership and they said, you know what, why don't we talk to Assembly of God World Missions? So here at Trinity Bible College and Graduate School, we are an Assembly of God school, part of that denomination. And so our president said, let's take a trip and go meet with Assembly of God World Missions leadership and present this idea and see what they think about it. And so we did, and everybody said, this is unanimous. Let's try to make this happen. And so working together in partnership with AGWM and Trinity Bible College and Graduate School here in North Dakota, we started a website and we just started to curate or collect missions mobilization articles and books and some of the things that we started to produce. We put on our website, missionarymobilization.org, and it just kind of grew into now starting a podcast and continuing our podcast and where it is today.
That's awesome. That's incredible. So you touched on this a little bit, but what types of ministry does the center do?
Yeah, we have, again, a lot of articles. We have a section on our website that is for mobilization. And so it's for missionaries or pastors, like missions pastors or outreach pastors, and mobilizers on resourcing them to kind of a collection of best practices, if you will, articles from all sorts of organizations. And we've got recommended books on our website. We also do trainings for mission agencies, trainings for pastors and churches, or for a network of churches. We've done those. We call them districts in AGWM terminology. That would be an area that maybe a state or a section of a state that get together and they have pastoral meetings once a month. And so we can come and talk about best practices in missions and how to implement not a missions program, but a missions ministry, and to do that well from your church. And so we also offer trainings for missionaries on how missionaries can be mobilizers. In fact, I don't know about you, but I hear a lot of missions leaders say that missionaries are our best mobilizers. Yeah. Well, how can they do that? And so those are some of the things that we look into, that we research, and that we have on our website as resources. So we can do this in person. We can do this via Zoom. I've done trainings both ways. And we also have an event called The Porch. It's a monthly meeting for missions pastors, for mobilizers, for missions educators, for those that work with agencies, mission agencies. Okay. Where we get together, and literally it's people from all over the world.
That's awesome.
We get together for about an hour once a month via Zoom, and we pray together. We encourage one another. It's called The Porch. Because that's where, at least for me personally, I love sitting on the front porch early in the morning, drinking a cup of coffee, reading my Bible, and just listening to the voice of the Lord, praying for unreached people groups. That's kind of where I love to have my quiet time and where God speaks to me. And so that's what we hope for this Zoom meeting, is that it's a time where we can collaborate together. There are partnerships that have been formed, that where God can speak to us and we can encourage one another. So you can find more information about that on our website. If you sign up for our updates, our monthly updates, email updates, you'll get information about The Porch every month.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. That's really incredible. So it sounds like there's a lot of resources out there. And are most of these free?
Yeah, they're all free, actually.
Awesome.
They're all free. It's a ministry of Assembly of God World Missions and Trinity Bible College and Graduate School, we want to resource the wider constituency and those around the world. So if you're maybe a younger mission agency and you don't have a training for mobilizers, those are the things that we can help you with, and it's all free of charge.
Gotcha. That's incredible.
It's fun, man. I love it.
Well, thank you for sharing about those items that the center offers and that we have on our website. And we do update social media with stuff too. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram. It's at Missionary Mobilization. And so we post a lot from other people, just different events and resources as well.
Yep. And I also want to add we're on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. So
nice.
And we have some stuff on YouTube as well. So you said this ministry is a partnership between Assemblies of God, World Missions, and Trinity Bible College and Graduate School. And now Trinity has created a new degree for missionaries, missions pastors, and mobilizers. Can you tell us a little bit about this degree?
Yeah, so it's an MA, a Master of Arts in Intercultural Studies. And a lot of schools have a Master of Arts in Intercultural Studies. And I would encourage missionaries or missions pastors, those that work for agencies, to continue their education in that. The thing that makes this degree is pretty unique is that we have an optional track in missions mobilization. So,
oh wow!
So what we did is in the regular MA Intercultural Studies, you can take 4 classes of what we call general electives. That's any master's level class you can that you're interested in, you can take. But what we did is we created a track for missions mobilization to say, instead of taking any class you want, you take these 4 classes and that focus on missions mobilization. So one of them is called Trends and Issues in Missions Mobilization. Another class is missions coaching and mentoring. And then we've got one too on mobilization in church context. And so all these classes will really help to educate and to train missions pastors. And this is a unique degree that is specifically for them. And we know it's a little bit niche, right? It's a little bit narrow. But I know that there's over 1,000 mission agencies in North America.
Oh, wow.
And I know we've got hundreds and hundreds of missions pastors that are serving all over the country. And again, why did we start? Because there are few resources for missions mobilizers.
That's really good. So now we have all these resources here and we have all these things, but what is your vision for the future?
Yeah, we're starting a new initiative. You know this because we've been talking about it for a month or so. And
we have?
And we've been working on it a little bit. And that is we're working on a journal. We've got a podcast for those that love to listen, and we want to create a journal that will be open source. It'll be free in a PDF, downloadable. Probably start out twice a year, and we're hoping to publish the first one in January. So we've got several months of work ahead of us here.
You're making me sweat a little bit, Dave.
Well, I know, because I'm sweating too, because we're both kind of new to this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Neither one of us have published journals before, and so we're figuring out together with the Lord's help, and we're not really qualified to do it, but God is helping us in our weakness. And I also hope that other schools will begin to formulate, majors or minors in missions mobilization, or grad degrees in missions mobilization. And speaking of, by the way, I forgot to mention earlier that we're so passionate about equipping missionaries that Trinity Bible College and Graduate School offers a free grad class for any missionary.
Really?
Any missionary can get a hold of us. Just write us at hello@missionarymobilization.org if you want to audit. So this is not for credit.
Okay. But
this is an audit, but it will cost you nothing. And we've got cohorts that meet all over the world.
Really?
And so there's a lot of classes for you to choose from. You can pick one, and if you are a missionary, you can take it for free.
That's incredible.
So you really want to write us today, hello@missionarymobilization.org. missionaries.org, and we can get you signed up and going for that. But we want to continue to provide resources for missions pastors and mobilizers. And so, if you've got ideas on, well, what about this? Maybe you're listening to this episode and you're thinking, I wish there was something. Could you just get into contact with us? The whole reason the porch, this Zoom meeting for mobilizers started, is because we had someone write to us and say, is there anything like this where I can collaborate with other missions mobilizers from around the world? And so that was a fun thing for us to say, you know what, we're not sure that there might be a few things happening, but we're not aware of it, so let's just start one. And it didn't cost us a whole lot of money or anything because it's just a Zoom call, but it's a great time to get together. So maybe you're thinking, I wish I had such and such resource. Please get a hold of us and make that suggestion.
That's awesome. That seems amazing. I'm so super excited for the vision of the center and everything that you're dreaming about with the center, and we're looking forward to what's coming there. Dave, is there anything else you'd like to add, maybe about yourself or about the center?
We just want to really connect with our listeners, and we love to collaborate. So if you've got ideas, please get in touch with us. We're just having a blast, and if we can be of a resource to you, if we can serve you in any way, I do a lot of Zoom calls with other missionaries and pastors, and would just love to connect with you about that. So thanks so much for listening, Tim. It's been awesome to have you here today.
Well, it's been awesome to be here.
Kind of weird for you to be on this side of the microphone in the studio in my office, but we just appreciate it. And before we go, we'd like to thank Assemblies of God World Missions, who helped sponsor today's podcast. And they've got nearly 2,700 missionaries serving around the world. And AGWM exists for one reason. That's to reach the lost, to plant churches, to train believers, and to serve the poor and suffering. You can visit them at agwm.org for more information. And until next time, everyone, let's keep praying for more laborers to work in His harvest fields.
You've been listening to the Missionary Mobilization Podcast, a ministry of the Center for Missionary Mobilization and Retention at Trinity Bible College and Graduate School. You can access free resources online at missionarymobilization.org. Also, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Missionary Mobilization. Thanks for listening.